Welcome to Carl and Heather Present,
the podcast where we dive into the insights, challenges, and humor of being married to someone who is nothing like you.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
Oh, don't you know it's Carl and Heather Present Marriage Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Carl and Heather Present Episode 2. What are we talking about today, babe?
We are talking about communication.
Okay, that sounds like a horrible idea.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, talking to microphones and in real time demonstrate to everybody listening just how bad we can be at this.
Right.
I'm speaking for you.
Oh, you're a monster.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you always say that. And one time when my parents were fighting, I remember this as a child. Mm-hmm. My mother called my dad a male chauvinist pig. Mm. And to which he responded, every time we get in an argument, you always bring up my weight. And I love that. I love my dad for that. God rest his soul.
I love that too. That's cool. That's funny.
Well, hey, you're going on a cruise. As this recording, we leave tomorrow for a cruise. How are you feeling about that?
I am feeling good. I feel like I've got a list in my mind of things that we have to get done. And unfortunately, I feel like communication-wise, this is where we miss each other sometimes too, because I don't know about everybody listening, but for me, the day before I have a big event, I want to do all the non-essential things that I've not done over the last, 20 years.
Right.
Like clean out the junk drawer or clean my baseboards.
Yeah.
Or, that kind of thing.
I've experienced this many times.
I know. Yeah. So I'm thinking, well, I have time to fit those non-essential things in addition to all the other things I have to do. But I'm also excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are going to have a good time.
We are.
If anybody out there resonates with what Heather just said, I would love for somebody to just comment, say, yes, I'm that way too. Maybe there's a husband that's out there that's that way.
Yeah.
But if you don't feel that way, if you're like me and you're like, man, it seems crazy.
Yeah.
Please make it so that I don't feel alone.
Sorry.
We do love listener comments.
Yeah.
We want to interact with you guys. And although we're early on in the podcast, those are the places, the platforms, the social media, YouTube, those different kind of things, even carlandheather.com. If you email us from there, those are the best ways to interact with us about what we're talking about. We're talking about communication today. If you want your voice to be heard on Carl and Heather Present, get in there, get in the comments, and email us, talk to us, direct message us. We want your voice to be heard, and we'd love to interact with everybody. So,
let's focus on this. Let's dive in and talk about this, because the reality is we all communicate every day in some way. And we do this with our spouse daily. Mm-hmm. But the problem comes in, I think, when the message that we're trying to communicate is not conveyed, or it's misconstrued, or I said one thing, but you heard it completely different than what I meant for it to mean.
One of the funniest things that has ever happened to me happened with our kids, and this is a parenting communication thing, but the principle is the same. Imagine me taking the boys swimming. We have a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old, and one is potty training, the other's in diapers, and it's me and these two boys, and we're swimming. They love to swim, and we're in their favorite place, even more favorite than Disney World, a hotel pool.
Yep.
So imagine us being in a hotel pool. We're swimming. I've got the 18-month-old in my arms. I'm holding him, and the 3-year-old is splashing around, having a big time. He's also potty training, as I've said. He says to me, "Dad, I've got to pee." Mm-hmm. And of course, that if a 3-year-old tells you they've got to pee, there's about a 90-second window before there's an accident. So he says, "Dad, I got to pee." So then I'm in my dad mind, and I say to myself, "All right, I got one of two choices here. I can get out of this pool, drop both of these kids off, take this one to the bathroom, go through the whole routine."
Yeah.
Or the other choice is the one I made is to just tell my 3-year-old to pee in the pool.
Right.
Which I did. He said, "Dad, I've got to pee." I said to him, "Just pee in the pool." And he just got a look on his face. And then I got distracted by his little brother. Again, we're in a hotel pool. I'm trying to manage these two kids. There's people everywhere. Mm-hmm. All the people start screaming and yelling and pointing at me. And I have looked away to the 18-month-old. Then I look back at our son who was doing exactly what I told him to do, but he was going about it by standing up on the edge of the pool, pulling his pants down and peeing in the pool. It's exactly what I told him to do.
Yeah.
But the outcomes of my communication, I did not anticipate how he was going to interpret my words. And that happens almost all the time
Yes.
with people all over the world, especially married people.
Yep.
I was trying to say one thing, but the exact same words that I used, he heard them, interpreted them, and then executed them in a totally different and disastrous way.
Yeah. Yep.
So
For sure.
we're doing this episode early because this is the number one problem in Carl and Heather world.
Right. Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. I am a financial wizard. I am very good with kids. I am a vigorous lover. And dang it, if there isn't a bad story from us every day of the week
Yeah.
when vigorous lover is strong.
I didn't see that coming. So
Well,
let's keep going. Let's keep moving.
we always mess up around communication.
Yeah.
It always happens. And that's part of our story, but people will probably be able to hear, even in this podcast,
They'll listen
that
and say,
this is a place
was a miss.
where we miss each other. I remember the one time where we were driving down the street and we saw this guy walking down the road, and he was carrying a tire.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I wonder why he's carrying that tire.
Yeah.
That was just an internal thing that I said.
Yeah, I remember that. And I remember looking at him and thinking lots of different thoughts. And what I said, though, was, I wonder where the rest of his bike is.
And I remember laughing at that. And I thought all I was doing was just thinking about that guy's carrying a tire. I wonder why.
Yeah, and I was thinking kind of 8 layers deep. I started in the same place as you did. I wondered, why is he carrying that tire? But then I also thought there must be something wrong with it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be carrying it. Maybe it belonged to a bike, probably. It must have belonged to a bike. Wonder what happened to that bike. Was there an accident? Is he okay? Does he need our help? And then all that led to me saying out loud, wonder where the rest of his bike is.
Amazing. And in the time it took me to look at that guy and think, I wonder why he's carrying that tire.
Yep.
In the exact same amount of time.
Yeah.
You thought all those things.
I did.
And you created a whole world about this guy.
This story.
And we were seconds away from pulling over and asking him,
Right.
if we needed to buy him a new bike.
Right.
But that describes the fundamental difference between you and me. And it's like a computer screen. On my computer screen, I tend to have one window at a time open.
Right.
And I'm able to interact and fully engage with that one window at a time. Your computer screen, you might have 10 windows at a time open, and you're able, through some miracle of grace, to interact and engage with all those windows all at the same time.
Right.
And it's amazing, but that is the difference between us. Now, neither one of us, that's not a value judgment.
Right.
We just go about things in different ways, but that's also the place that if we're not careful to recognize that, we start to miss each other.
Yeah, and that's the idea, I think, babe, is that we have to understand that we go about this differently.
Right.
So we start there. We communicate very differently, but we also have to enter conversations with each other with the goal of, my internal goal would be, I want you to understand what I'm trying to communicate. But that's not the right goal. I think the right goal of communication is to say, how can I better understand you and what you're thinking and what you're feeling versus like me trying to get my point across.
Yeah. Well, this is the hardest place for us.
Yeah.
It makes me want to recall, though, like, what have we learned about this over the last 25 years?
Yeah.
What places have we found ourselves where, we get to a communication problem and you feel your body energy change. You feel like, hey, this communication is going in a different direction. It's not working.
Right.
what have we learned? How have we learned to recognize an impulse that feels like something's going off the rails, and then adjust to fix it, or adjust to understand better the person that you're communicating with versus trying to be understood.
Yeah. Well, I think
or prove your point.
Yeah. For me, with you, one of the things that I realize, and this is not just for me and you, or just me to you, but it's you to me as well. But like I have to create a good space for conversation and communication. And one of the worst times and spaces for that for us is when you come home at the end of the day, because either I've been working and I've had a lot going on. And I really want to just like almost verbally vomit on you and like tell you all about my day and everything that's happened, and then ask you the same thing about your day. When the reality is, you may be out of words at that point. Like you may have been in meetings or sat with people, talked with people all day, and that's not a good space or time for you to almost go back through what your schedule is. And while me knowing your schedule might connect me to you, it really is just a way of you communicating something to me that I could find out by just looking at your calendar. Okay. And so I choose times wisely.
So pick your time.
Yeah. Pick your time and choose it wisely. When we had little kids, I mean, you remember this. When they were little, like dinner time or like 7:00 at bedtime, that was a terrible time, right? For us to communicate.
It's a good time for us to fight.
Right. Yeah. Conflict happened then, but no communication happened because there were so many other things. And I honestly think that a lot of us miss each other because of that, because we don't choose a time to communicate and we don't even block off a time. So that's one thing for me.
Okay.
You mentioned the computer windows, right? Well, if I'm coming to you to communicate about something and to understand where you're coming from, which is my goal, instead of picking 6 different windows that are open, I need to just pick one. So what am I trying to communicate? What am I trying to communicate? And what do I want to draw out of you?
Sure.
Instead of addressing multiple different issues or trying to communicate. And I can kind of come in that because I have those windows open. Something that's a downfall for me is that I'll come in and pepper you with like multiple different angles and windows. And you're like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And I'll change directions really quickly. And we miss each other then. And we don't really communicate. So that's one window at a time, one thing.
Yeah.
I also have to ask sometimes if I feel like I'm missing you, some clarifying questions. And I think that asking questions when you're not clear on what someone's saying, or you're not sure if that's like maybe a top layer and you want to get to like a deeper layer, asking good clarifying questions is helpful. And then not only that, but after I ask you questions, me saying back to you, okay, so let me make sure I'm hearing what you're saying.
Yeah. That
I hear you saying this. Is that right? Is that what you were trying to communicate to me? And asking that. Because, at the end of the day, I need to better understand your heart. Okay? Right. And I have to remember that you are uncomplicated. And I mean that in like just the best way. Like I'm jealous of the idea that you have one window open, because I can be doing 5 things at a time and I really want to just be focused on the one thing, but there are 4 other things in the back of my mind that I'm thinking about. I wish I could close those windows. And so if I ask you sometimes too, though, hey, babe, what are you thinking about? What's on your mind right now? And you say, nothing. You actually say the word nothing.
I'm being honest.
You're being honest.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking about anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, or not anything of consequence.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's a big thought that I'm withholding from you. A lot of times, especially if I'm tired.
Yeah.
I might be thinking about sleep.
Yeah.
Potentially sex.
Right.
If that's what you're bringing up, then you get my attention. But like,
I can open that window quick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are some things for me. What about for you?
Okay. So I am uncomplicated and sometimes a slow learner, but these are the things that I have learned kind of the hard way of getting to know you and understanding you, especially when it comes to communication. The first one is I have to watch the tone of my voice and the language of my body. I tend to underestimate my volume and my intensity level when I'm saying things. Now, I could characterize myself as a passionate person, but there's a fine line between passionate and harsh. And many times what I think is passionate, like talking about, an opinion or talking about something that, is experienced as harsh with you. So almost every time we have an interaction where we're communicating together, my best foot forward is to begin by just saying, hey, watch your tone of voice and watch your intensity level. Even though I don't feel that I'm intense or loud,
Right.
a lot of times you do.
Right.
And so I need to get really familiar with the volume level on that.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Watch my tone
That's
and my
good.
body language. For me, watch out for feelings of defensiveness. Like when I feel that impulse when we're communicating, even if you just ask me a question, and it can be an innocent question, depending on what it is or how I feel about the issue, I can have the impulse to be defensive. I'm learning to resist that. I feel like I can be the Incredible Hulk sometimes. Favorite Marvel character. I mean, it's important to say to our listeners about this that when I was a child, I was Incredible Hulk for 9 consecutive Halloweens.
I was waiting for that.
He is my favorite character of all time.
Can I just say that is one of the things I love about you? Like it is, I would love to see like 9 different years of little Carl.
Dressed. Also same costume.
So
all
it
9
really
years.
did.
Yeah, I just kept bringing it
Did it really
back.
start ripping and getting too tight like the Hulk by the
and
time
I was
you were?
a chubby little kid, so by the time I was those last couple years where like this kid's too old to trick or treat.
Yeah.
Boy, I was like looking doughy in that thing.
Maybe we'll try to put a picture of that somewhere.
Okay,
I don't know.
but don't sometimes defensiveness can cause you to blow up like the Hulk, and get big as a way of controlling somebody.
Yeah.
I have to watch that. One thing, and this is a very simple thing, but we're always talking about things, and if you tell me your problem, my impulse is to fix you, and it's been the hardest thing for me to learn that is not what you need from me.
Right.
You do not want my solutions. And I think solutions are great.
Right.
A lot of times we end up in communication, we need to give somebody something though that we don't ourselves need. Like
Yes.
I love a solution.
Right.
But I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to understand you. And a lot of times my impulse to fix you, I need to really turn that off. And and this last thing, I learned this from you, is to keep asking questions. You have taught me like a long time, and you've taught the boys this too, that asking questions about people helps to endear them to you and to draw them out, or asking people questions rather. It's endearing. People feel endeared to a person who's asking them questions and drawing them out. Tell me more about that. Help me understand that. That is an endearing behavior, and you are like world-class at that. I think that's why everyone likes you. But when we're communicating, I've learned from you, and I don't just use it on you. I use it on a lot of people.
Yeah.
Help me understand. Tell me more about that. What did you mean when you said all of those kind of things are a way for it, they're almost like greasing the gears.
Yeah.
That helps the conversation to keep going.
Yeah.
Because the setting is invitational, and so you taught me that keep asking questions, and then I think the last thing I've learned about communication with you is that chocolate is good for you.
Ooh.
You like that? If I give you chocolate,
If you give me chocolate, that's awesome.
You'll keep talking.
I will keep talking. And if you give me chocolate and tell me I look pretty,
Okay.
like use your words,
I don't have any chocolate, but you do look pretty.
Thank you. It means a lot. It just means a
Here
lot.
in the Carl and Heather Present studio.
There you go.
Right.
Maybe you could get me some chocolate later.
Maybe okay.
I don't
Okay,
know.
well, all right.
But your words matter too,
Well, let's talk about that. Power of words. I think even how the Bible talks about words and blessing and speaking things into existence, it's clear that God is very much about words.
Yeah.
And about words bringing things to life and words becoming life.
Right.
Genesis 1:3, God said, let there be light.
Right.
And there it was.
Yeah.
Something powerful when we think about that. By the word of the Lord, Psalm 33, by the word of the Lord were the heavens made, the starry host by the breath of his mouth. There's something that's being set up for us as image bearers to be mindful of, hey, your words matter. Proverbs 18:21, famous one. The power of life and death is in the tongue. And when it comes to communicating, that is, man, it's never been more clear than when we realize that these words that we have command over create worlds.
Yeah.
Words create worlds.
Yeah. And oftentimes there are things that we can't take back. It's like I've heard the analogy of like once you squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube, you can't put it back in. And so we have to be careful about the words that we use with each other, particularly based on where we're coming from, or maybe if we're hurt or our feelings have been hurt or something like that, or we're trying to communicate something we feel like we're missing each other. It's important to think about what you're going to say before you say it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because once it's out, you can't pull it back. And I can't I don't think we can overemphasize this, because sometimes people will say, well, you know that the saying you learned as a kid, like sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never harm me. Well, that is not true.
Yeah.
That is untrue in every way, because think about if I said these two phrases, okay? Think about how you feel when I say these two phrases. The first one, will you marry me? Okay.
Yes.
Now that would be
Already
you
did.
saying it to me, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Will you marry me? And the emotions that evokes, right? The second one, I want a divorce.
Yeah.
Very different words, very different emotions, very different weights. And so you can't just flippantly use your words and say, well, it doesn't matter. I can, say this or say that. It doesn't matter. Our words carry a tremendous amount of weight.
And they make a world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But imagine living in a world where the same person had said both of those things to you.
Yeah.
That brings up these very different worlds and this problem with communication and a desperate need for us to realize how we talk to each other matters so much.
Yep.
What we say to each other can't be taken for granted,
Right.
even in the most offhanded things.
Right.
So that's why we're talking about this. Babe, what do we need to do? We say it all the time. Nobody wants their marriage to fail.
Right.
But what do we have for the person who is frustrated by their situation and communicating seems like, I don't know, it seems like telling a dyslexic person to read better. And if it doesn't work, you just yelled it louder. Sometimes it feels like I'm the method I'm using to break through to you is not working, but that's the only method that I've got. What's the hope that we have?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
So I think that the hope that we have for our marriage, and even for everybody that's listening, is the hope of Jesus. And it's that Jesus set the example for us as followers by loving us first. And we're talking about communication, but more than that, the only way I am able to truly communicate with you at the deepest level is if I first love you. And Jesus did that for us first. He loved us first, the Bible tells us. And so because of that, then I can love you. And if I love you, then I'm going to be a much better communicator with you, because I'm looking to your heart. I'm looking for what's best for you, not to get my way, not to get my point across, but to communicate in the best way where I can understand your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colossians 3:12-14. I think about this verse a lot, and it's not Colossians 3 has the husbands and wives part. This is the part that comes before that. But Colossians 3:12-14 says, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved," that's who we are. What we ought to do is clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. That sounds like an awesome outfit. Verse 13, bear with one another and forgive one another if any one of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds everything else together, perfect harmony. Love is the perfect accessory to this outfit. Yeah. But I like that the metaphor is getting dressed.
Yeah.
Putting on these things, putting on kindness, compassion, humility, gentleness, patience, and forgiveness. I think about a lot about forgiveness and the role that it plays in communication, and the role that it plays in, just menu talking. It, by the nature of a marriage, by just the fact that the terms are what they are, we're not going to get out of this without some hurt feelings.
Right.
We're not going to escape this without miscommunication. We are, unfortunately, because of the brokenness that we are experiencing in our own souls and lives, we're going to need to forgive, because we're going to hurt each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I look back at that verse, and I think it's interesting that we list all those things, that Paul lists all those things at the beginning, that we clothe ourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, that we forgive each other, right, as the Lord has forgiven us. But above all those things, we have to first put on love, because without that, none of those other things matter, because we'll try to do those things, or I will, in my own strength. I'll try to just be compassionate. I just want to be more compassionate. But if I'm not doing that because I know that God first loved me, then I can show you love. Then I can show you all these other things too: compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, right?
Yeah.
So I think a good way of kind of bringing this all together, of like, how do we do this? Like, what are some practical ways that we can do this? Because I think it's great that we have that metaphor, but like, even with our kids, sometimes we use metaphors on them, and they're like, I don't know what that means.
What does that mean?
Like, what does that mean? And
how do I put on love?
How do I do that?
What size is it?
Right. So here are just some thoughts that we have that might help with this, that when we come to a conversation or a place that we want to communicate with each other, the first thing is that we have questions over convictions. And that is just the idea that I'm communicating not to prove my point or even to let you know that I'm right.
Yeah.
But that I'm doing this with the goal of understanding you.
Okay.
And understanding your heart. Okay.
So come to the conversation with questions over convictions.
Right. And I will say, I catch myself doing this. This is a good tip. If you catch yourself always formulating what you're going to say while your spouse is speaking, you are not coming to the table with questions over convictions. You are wanting them to understand your way instead of listening to what they're saying. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then... What
the next thing?
Yeah. So next is curiosity over confidence, right?
Okay.
So, and what does that mean? Curiosity over confidence. When I say that, what does that mean?
All right. Just instead of, I love to argue. I love to fight. And I almost always have like worked out my position, the ending thing. Before I say the first word about something.
And you're fast with, like
yes.
You for your living, use words to make your living. You're a songwriter too. Yeah. So like, you're good at that. You're good at using words.
But so curiosity over confidence is, instead of assuming I know exactly what's going on and I've already concluded, I'm confident in my conclusions about whatever's happening. That also is a contributor to trying to fix you. I hear you say your problem, and then I just conclude a solution. But instead of concluding what's going on, and I need to stay curious about what's below the surface and keep digging in ways so that it's not always being right that's important.
Yeah.
Even if I am right, the need to state that is something to let go of, because it's not my job to make sure you agree with me and prove myself right. It's my job to understand you and draw you out and be more curious than I am confident, because there's nuance and subtlety to almost every conversation. So how am I listening below the surface? So questions over convictions, curiosity over confidence, and then finally, kindness over conflict. What does that mean?
Yeah, kindness over conflict is that, sometimes communication will escalate into conflict. That's just the reality of it, right?
Yeah, and that's been in the water that we're talking about, like this whole time we've been talking.
Right.
That's part of it.
Yeah, sometimes it will. And if it happens every time, like every time you go to communicate with your spouse, if every time you and I try to have a conversation and share our hearts, it turns or escalates into conflict, that's a red flag.
Does it mean we should never fight?
That's a problem. It does not. It does not mean that we should never fight, but it might mean that it's turning into conflict because we're paying more attention about what we want to communicate than we are our spouse's heart. And the way we're communicating is not working.
Yeah.
So it might even not be that there's a conflict there. It's just that we're missing each other because we're communicating differently. And if I come to the table and say, I'm going to be kind to you, and that's going to override everything, not in place of conflict, not to say I'm going to be kind so that we won't have conflict. We will have conflict. Conflict is healthy. But I'm going to show kindness to you in every situation, just like we talked about clothing ourselves with that, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to show that to you. And that is going to be a way of unlocking your heart, because it is very difficult to engage in conflict with someone who is kind to you. Mm-hmm. If your goal is conflict, if I come to the table, I'm like, I'm ready for a fight, and you're kind to me, that disarms me.
Sure.
And then it opens me up to want to communicate with you.
Right.
But if I come to you with gloves on and you meet me with that, you meet me with gloves right back, and then we start into this boxing match, and what started as, hey, let me try to understand why you did this, and now we're in a full-fledged fight or argument. And that's a problem if that happens every time.
So consistently, that's going to happen to normal people.
Yep.
We're normal people. But you're saying that if it happens over and over and over again, it's a signal that, hey, something's not working. Try something different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really hard for people to do, though.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
It is. And I will say this, like as a side note, sometimes that's the time where you're like, hey, we're missing each other. We need to bring somebody else in to help with this.
Yeah.
We have done that before multiple times throughout our marriage. We've had good Christian counselors that we brought into this process to say, hey, we're having this same conflict over and over and over again. We're missing each other. And it really, interestingly enough, I think it boiled down to communication.
Yeah.
Like it got to conflict because we weren't able to communicate to each other.
Yeah.
We didn't understand each other's hearts.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, it's good to talk to you today. I think this is kind of weird. We're also going to sleep in the same bed tonight.
Right. So it's good to communicate with you on microphones in front of people, right?
Wow, that's good. I'm really trying to do some of those things I was talking about.
I am too. Let's keep doing it.
Okay. All right.
So anyway, let's talk about where we're going, what we're doing this fall. Yeah.
Yeah. We are going on the road. We're doing all kinds of things together. Carl and Heather Present is not just a podcast. It's a whole lifestyle.
Yeah. It's what we're doing. And I'm teaching at a Bible study that meets at Fellowship Bible Church every week on Wednesdays. It's called Moms Together.
You are a very good teacher.
Oh, thank you.
And
thank
you're pretty.
you. Yeah.
And I will give you chocolate.
Thank you. I like all those things, words, chocolates, everything. So if you want more information about any of the places that will be, you can just go to carlandheather.com to find out. But I'm teaching Wednesdays at a Bible study. So if you're in the area, feel free to come on.
October 26th, I'm going to be Hope Community Church Men's Conference in Shelby, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. I would love to have anybody that's in that area want to come to a great men's conference, Hope Community Church there in Shelby. And then on the 27th, that Sunday morning, I'll be leading worship at Hope Community.
That'll be awesome. I'll be in South Sudan with my friend Mike Vogt from November 7th through the 17th, teaching women in Vietnam. Just the area there. Yeah.
Who will take care of me while you're gone?
I don't know. Maybe our boys will. Maybe they won't. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah.
November 10th. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
November 10th, Worship House, Franklin, Tennessee. We host a monthly worship night in our home. Mm-hmm. It's open to everybody. If you want to come, DM us on social media, email us, and we'll send you our address. It's the next one, Sunday night, November 10th, 6:30 to 8:30, inside of our home in Franklin, Tennessee.
I know. Come on.
I am leading worship and speaking for a conference at Beulah Baptist, November 15th through the 17th.
It's going to be fun. And then we're going to be in Williamsburg, Virginia, November 22nd through the 24th, which is part of Family Life's Weekend to Remember conferences.
One of the great things Heather and I get to do is speak for Family Life's Weekend to Remember. If you want to come, and we're not the only speakers. The speaker team is stacked with amazing people who are just like us, trying to walk with other couples to stay married to somebody who's nothing like them. But check out familylife.com. We just got the spring schedule for 2025, and we're going to be in Napa, California, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Florida. So this coming up spring, it'd be a great thing to give to like an engaged couple or a young married couple, or even a couple that's been married for a long time. It's a great gift. So check it out, familylife.com.
Yeah, it is great. And then something we're excited about that we do every year, November 28th. What's happening?
Thanksgiving Miracle Breakfast.
Yep.
It's our family's annual breakfast where we have over 100 people at our home Thanksgiving morning for breakfast.
Our little house.
In our little house in Franklin. We're using our house a lot lately.
We are. Yeah, I love it.
That's
I love
good.
it. So if
for.
you're in the area, we really want you to come to that. I mean, we're not joking, but we're not going to say our address out loud. So you have to DM us. And then February 8th, I know this is next year, but February 8th is the Behold Women's Gathering. And it's something I'm so excited about. It's a day we're going to be in Franklin, Tennessee. It's a women's gathering where we come together with the sole purpose of lifting up Jesus. And we'll do that through worship and the word. And we invite his spirit to join us that day. And we love it. And we would love for you to come. If you want to know more about who's going to be there, speakers, registration, what the day will look like, you can just go to beholdgathering.com.
Okay. And also, the Behold Women's Bible Study is a Bible study that you wrote, available all over the internet, at your website, at our website, on Amazon, the Behold Women's Bible Study. It is an amazing Bible study. I'm so proud of you for doing the work to create it.
Thanks, babe.
Ladies, if you want 6 weeks of refreshment and encouragement in Jesus, check out the Behold Women's Bible Study.
Thanks, babe. And last, we do live events. One of the things we love to do is to bring this ministry to couples in a live group setting. So if you're interested, you want us to come to your church or marriage event, just reach out to us on social media or at carlandheather.com.
Yep. And thank you guys for listening today. Remember that if you are communicating with your spouse this week, look them in the eye before you say a word. Remember to love them just like Christ loved you.
Yep.
And that'll probably be the best piece of advice we could give each other.
Yep. And we want you to join us next week as we talk about conflict, the best practices for untying knots.
Wow.
Sounds good.
It does.
All right. Together's better.
Together's better.
It's Carl.